Don't mess with our free press. 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 Our free press. Don't mess with our free press. Don't mess with our free press.
My name is Brad Wright. I am a former reporter at WCAX for 12 years and a former producer at CNN in Washington for 13 more. And what I can tell you is that there is very little that is more valuable to the American public than a free press, because real information, truthful information, is critically important to our existence as a democracy. And, you know, I'm holding this sign saying FCC, hands off ABC. I say that not loving everything that Disney has done, but I promise you that it is a terrible thing and just an example of terrible intimidation for the White House to threaten a broadcast license of any broadcaster for free speech, for something that a comedian said. That is nuts, and that's what I believe.
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Press freedom!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Press freedom!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Press freedom!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Press freedom!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Press freedom!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Press freedom!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Press freedom!
When do we want it?
Now!
People have the power.
People have the power! 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 People have the power!
People have the power, vote! 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 People have the power, vote!
People have the power, vote! People have the power, vote! People have the power, vote! People have the power, vote! People have the power, vote! People have the power, vote! People have the power, vote! People have the power, vote! People have the power, vote!
Nice sign.
Okay, folks, let's go. Don't mess with our free press. 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 Don't
I know
Hi, my name is Keegan Lafferty. I'm about to graduate from the University of Vermont, and I have a minor in reporting and documentary storytelling. And I think that freedom of the press and freedom of speech is so incredibly important, especially in the current political landscape. And I was just shopping downtown and stumbled upon this protest, and I was crying for most of it because it's so emotional for me to see people assemble and fight for what they believe in. I think this is really, really important. I think that the more we continue to speak up, the more that we can make an impact in the world. And I'm really happy to be here, and I'm really, really proud to see that Burlington has brought an event like this. Shout out to all the people that work in journalism, that work to bring the truth. I think it's super important, and yeah.
I am also the author of a book called First to Fall, about a hero of American journalism and a hero of American press freedom. Has anybody ever heard of Elijah Lovejoy?
Yep. Yes.
If you have, good on you. If you have not, I suggest that this is a great time to learn his story because it's very instructive at this moment. He was a Presbyterian minister from Maine, another New Englander, who made his way to what was then the frontier. He was in St. Louis and then in Illinois. And he set up a newspaper to serve his congregation as he was a minister of a Presbyterian church. And as part of his moral beliefs, he found the institution of slavery to be immoral, an evil in our society. And he took to writing about that in his newspaper. And he was in a state where slavery was practiced, that is Missouri, and it did not take long for people to take offense at his writings against slavery and to target him and his newspaper. And they did so for months, harassing him and his family, storming his home, breaking his printing press up into pieces, throwing those pieces into the Mississippi River. And yet he bought another printing press and started all over again. And when the same thing happened again, Lovejoy bought another printing press and continued to print his truth. He was eventually chased out of St. Louis across the river into Illinois, which was in the 1830s, which was then ostensibly a free state, one in which slavery was not practiced, although in fact it was. And he met much the same response there. He was targeted by mobs. His press was broken up by a mob, thrown into the river. He got yet another printing press. And in the course of the delivery of his fourth printing press, the mob, in an attempt to stop Lovejoy from receiving the press and from continuing on his way as a publisher of a newspaper, surrounded the warehouse where the press was to be delivered, and Lovejoy was killed in the confrontation. He is considered the first American martyr to the free press. You won't see him in a lot of places listed, but he has the distinction of being the first journalist in America to be killed for their work. And their work was to tell his readers that slavery was wrong. And the mob, seeing that well, you can read about in my book, the mob scene came very much back to me on January 6, 2021. Because, and I've been carrying around this sign today with a photograph from that day. Before the rioters, if we want to use the polite term, before the insurrectionists arrived at the U.S. Capitol, they attacked the news media. It's seldom reported. You don't really see a lot about it, but journalists were the first people targeted by this mob. And so you can see, as I was just telling my friend Steve here on the walk, you can see the DNA never left. The cancer in the American body politic was never expunged. It's with us still, and it's going to take respect of the press and what we do, and defense of the press and what we do to make sure that things like this don't happen again. The forces arrayed are very large and very powerful and very wealthy at times. But, you know, this is where it begins. I want to say Lovejoy died, but the death set off a huge outcry across the country. And people were, in those days, still capable of righteous outrage.
So are we.
There was still something called shame in those days, and the reaction of the American public was to rally around the abolitionist movement and to devote much more support to the idea of press freedom. And in a sense, that was the moment when the modern notion of press freedom was born. So it's in the Constitution, but it's never guaranteed. People have died to make sure that this right continues alive with us, and we will continue to have to fight to protect it. So thank you all for coming around today and taking part, and I find this really inspiring.
Thanks, folks. We can do a hump and wave along here right now. Okay.
I like the right deadline.
Well, a lot of other things happened that day, so it kind of faded into the tunnel. But you know, it just there they are. That's what they do.
In October and a few other times we've been around.
Sound the alarm. Sound the alarm.
My name's Kathy Resmer. I am the deputy publisher and an owner of 7 Days newspaper. We're a Burlington-based free weekly newspaper. Comes out every Wednesday, distributed all over Vermont, 35,000 copies. Journalists don't typically march in protest marches or demonstrations in any way. I'm here with some of my colleagues from 7 Days here today because it's World Press Freedom Day tomorrow, and press freedom is a cause that is near and dear to all of our hearts. We would not be able to do what we do without freedom of the press. It is enshrined in the U.S. Constitution, in the Bill of Rights. The First Amendment protects free speech, but also freedom of the press, because you can't have a democracy without freedom of the press and without an informed citizenry, informed voters. And that's what we do at 7 Days, and it's what newspapers and journalists, TV, radio, broadcast, podcasts, all sorts of folks all over the country do holding power to account and reporting on the news that happens in our communities. It's just so important, not just the investigative news, but also telling you who the local musicians are and where the great restaurants are, and doing the things that bind our community together. That's all part of World Press Freedom Day, and that's why we're out here today and in support of it. Sure. This is Angela Simpson and Carolyn Fox, my dear colleagues at 7 Days. And Angela's a proofreader, and Carolyn's a culture editor and co-culture editor. And we are just part of the machinery that brings you that newspaper every week. So, yeah, and if you support us, the best way that you can support the press right now, other than demonstrating for free press, is to pay for the free press. Yes, 7 Days is free. Yes, listening to Vermont Public and reading Vermont Digger and all these news sources is free. But you should really, if you support us, it's not free to produce. So please become a super reader. Donate to your local media and support us so that we can continue bringing you this essential news. And also Town Meeting TV and Channel 17. Also, we are all dependent on our readers and our viewers and folks to keep watching and keep the free press going.
So in the world today, there's a lot of conflicting information and how people get news. It's important that we have sources that we can trust, and that there be freedom in this, as opposed to having the press controlled and only put out messages that meet their purposes and needs. A free press provides an educated public, and an educated public is critical to success of democracy. And it's also important for people to just have a full perspective so that they can live a balanced life and move progressively to some kind of happy future. So, thank you.